Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I actually have a little bit of a different video. I am sitting down and I am ranting about things, well, discussing things, because I woke up this morning and I saw this really great little post by Dr. Karen Becker, one of my favorite ladies here on the internet, talking about common mistakes that people make owning animals. And if you guys follow me, you know I've already made tons of videos on this subject and different lists and things that people can improve on generally, and I really liked this list in particular. It talks about some things that I don't focus on too much here on the channel, and I also kind of wanted to add my own things that I have been thinking about just as of late and I wanted to talk about with you. So some of these are things that she talked about on her list, and then other things I have added or tweaked. This applies to dogs, cats, ferrets, horses. If you think of any other animals that these could apply to, feel free to leave them down below. But anyways, so the first one is something that she talks about, and that is impulsive purchasing. And I thought I could talk about this one just simply because I do tend to be a little bit of an impulsive person, and I have made plenty of impulsive purchases. I did make this mistake when I got Patsu. Patsu was an impulse buy. I did some research beforehand, but not nearly enough, and not what I would do nowadays. And I've made a lot of mistakes just surrounding that because I did that, because I was impulsive. That if you have just general impulsive tendencies to buy things, it's good to wait a couple days before making that purchase. Now for an animal, I definitely suggest giving a lot more time before making that decision, like weeks to months. Just remember that you are in control of your own life. There is not some invisible force that is pressuring, forcing you to take on that horse, take on that extra guinea pig, and it is totally fine to take a step back and to wait. There will always be animals available for adopting or purchasing from a reputable breeder if that's the route that you choose to do. Put logistics over emotions and think logically about it before just being like, I have a connection with this animal, I feel something for this animal, and weigh the pros and cons. This is something that I do a lot. I make a lot of pros and cons lists, and they help me a lot. And then also what kind of goes along with that, and I'm not going to talk about it too much in this video because I talk about it in length on my many platforms, is purchasing from a pet store, because that kind of goes along with impulsively buying, because the animals from the pet store I generally cycled through. So a lot of the time when people go to the pet store or buy animals from a pet store, it is an impulsive decision. And if you would like to learn more on this particular subject of pet stores and animals, I highly recommend that you go check out my other videos on the subject. So number 2, which is also on Karen's list, is waiting too long to socialize or doing so improperly. This is especially critical for dogs and puppies. They go through multiple periods of being unsure of things, being scared, and during those times you really need to focus on socialization. Most aggressive and dangerous dogs actually stem from just improper socialization when they were younger, and failure to do so can lead to some extremely dangerous situations involving yourself, obviously your dog, other animals, other people, children. Introduce your new pets to other animals, other people, traveling in the car, travel carriers, being sure not to flood your animals, as they call it, because that can kind of give you the opposite effect. As someone who has raised a puppy through puppyhood, it's tough. It is tough. There are multiple periods where you might have to take a couple steps back and retrain things that you've already trained before. Having moments where you're just like, oh my god, my dog is turning dangerous or scared, it's really tough. Number 3 is inconsistent training, and something that I call shooting the dog or shooting the horse, shooting the ferret. Many domestic animals are very routine based. They thrive on knowing what's next, knowing what to expect with each day. And consistency is key in keeping wanted behaviors. You can't expect your animal to remember something that you taught them a couple times a few weeks ago. You can't bring them out into a new environment and expecting that they will know exactly what to do. Shooting the dog or horse or whatever means automatically placing all blame on them and having unrealistically high expectations for that animal, setting them up for failure, expecting them to be model citizens in all situations at all times and never doing any wrong. Almost like expecting them to absolutely know right from wrong and to kind of act like a human in certain situations or all situations, which is not correct. And I have seen this time and time again in the dog world, horse world, ferret world, where people are villainizing their animals. And it's really sad to see, because animals typically do not have a mean bone in their body to start with. They don't want to hurt you or make you upset. They're just simply confused in what you're asking. They lack the proper training, socialization. And the next one kind of goes along with it, and it's something that I really wanted to focus on in this video, and might be something that I get a little flack on. It's kind of controversial still to this day, and that is following the pack leader mentality and dominance-based training methods. You can disagree, and that is totally fine. In my experience and the research done on the subject, exerting dominance over our animals is not the most efficient or healthy way to train our animal. This type of training has been made popular in the past by people like Cesar Millan, Clinton Anderson, and they still, to this day, are considered go-to trainers. Animals know that you are not the same species as them. I've talked about this a lot here on the channel. Your ferret knows that you are not another ferret. Your dog knows that you are not a dog. I mean, we gotta give them more credit. They know that we will not act or do the same things that they do, and that we cannot communicate in the same way. The way that we speak to people and our animals see this, they do not understand. And that is not to say that you can't offer your animals leadership and guidance, because you certainly can do that, but you can do that without utilizing fear and force and forcing your animals into submission. And you do not need to flood your animal and work them until they are covered in sweat and they just can't do it anymore and they're broken. In my opinion and experience, horses and dogs are the biggest victims of this, and honestly I think horses even more so, because it seems that reinforcement-based training methods are still kind of shunned in the horse world. It is much more common to see people utilizing dominance and fear and punishment and pain to train their horses, still to this day, very, very common. I have been riding horses for 18 years. I've ridden at, trained at, worked at multiple places all over New York State. And I have only come across one other owner who was clicker training, and I know for a fact was using positive-based training methods. So really, it was not many at all. A lot of the stuff that I do, like clicker with the clicker, trick training, force-free methods as people call them, people see them and they are amazed at the barn, because it's just something that they have never seen before. They've never seen people do. I was constantly criticized growing up by horse professionals, even other animal professionals, for being too soft with my animals, for refusing to use spurs and whips in certain situations, and when I was told to use them, for not working my horse hard enough. I know I used to work at a pet boarding facility, and I was often kind of laughed at and mocked for being too soft on the dogs, for not leash popping, for not raising my voice at them. I was always kind of seen as like this meek little girl who would let animals walk all over her and would just let these animals constantly disrespect me. And I kind of stick to myself when I'm at the barn, and if I see something that I disagree with, you know, it's just kind of their business. I stick to myself and my horse and what works for us. Anyways, let's move on to the next point. I wanted that last one to be kind of the sole focus of this video, because it's still an issue to this day. Not understanding that your pet is bored. This one goes for many domestic species. Consider what your pet's wild counterparts do in the wild. Dogs, they love to forage, scavenge, they love to play with one another, and these things are often put to the back burner with dogs in family settings, with large families, parents and children. They tend to kind of be tossed aside and forgotten about and not allowed to forage or scavenge or play. Horses are meant to roam miles of terrain every single day, and they're meant to forage and eat throughout the day, rather than being boxed up in a stall, giving 2 very large meals for breakfast and dinner, rather than being allowed to forage smaller meals throughout the day. I can't tell you how many people come to me after allowing their ferrets to free roam for proper amounts every day. The things that they have to say about their ferrets' temperaments and behaviors and overall attitude and well-being improves drastically. That is the one thing that I can say to most people. Just do this for your animals, please. Do not keep your ferrets locked up in a cage for many hours in a day and night. It is not good for them, and that is the hill that I will die on. I get criticized for that a lot, making people feel bad for caging their ferrets, but I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna continue to advocate for ferrets and free-roaming ferrets. Next point is not listening to what your pet is trying to communicate with you. Is your ferret biting you a lot when you try to handle them? Is your dog shying away from you when you go to train them or to walk them? Is your horse playing hard to get and not allowing you to remove them from their field and their friends? There are some things that they might be trying to tell you just in general. You scare me. You do not respect me. Do not try to understand. I am in pain. I am confused. You are failing to provide some of the basic necessities that I need. Also, something I thought about when I was writing this was ignoring things like chronic vomiting and diarrhea. I can't tell you how many people I pet sat for where they were like, oh yeah, my cat, you know, he throws up his food a lot after he eats and he has a lot of diarrhea. Like, these are not normal things. I mean, sure, some animals have certain health conditions that make this kind of normal, but it's not normal for a healthy animal to be constantly and consistently vomiting and diarrheaing every day. Number 7, feeding only ultra-processed food. And notice I say only. I don't want people crying and saying, oh my gosh, Bran is criticizing us again for feeding kibble, because that's not true. I don't care how kibble can be marketed, how it can be promoted or praised. Kibble is not, and likely will never be, a species appropriate food for animals. And if you'd like to learn more about this subject, I have books on the topic, hundreds of videos on the subject, posts on my website, many for you to choose from and to go through. There are many things that you can add to kibble to make it healthier for animals, such as homemade bone broth, raw meats, fish, eggs, medicinal mushrooms, the list goes on. I greatly suggest that if you feed only kibble, that you are feeding something else like what I mentioned on top of that. Because I'm not going to compare it to fast food like I have in the past, because that makes people very angry, but I will compare it to, let's say you are eating a fortified commercial cereal for every meal of your life. Because no, kibble cannot be compared to fresh foods in any way. I mean, I think that this is kind of common sense. You can't look at this and think it's this, because it's not. It's the same as, you know, you're taking cereal and you're trying to compare it to fresh food. Anyways, if you're eating this cereal for every meal of your life, it's better to also include fresh berries in that cereal or fresh vegetables as a snack that day. That's all that I will say on that subject, because it is kind of been the focus of my channel. Not paying attention and taking care of your pet's dental and nail needs. I can't tell you how many people I've seen where their dogs, their horses, their nails and hooves are just like curling over, get around properly because they have overgrown nails and hooves. A lot of dental disease goes by undiagnosed because people are failing to open their animals' mouths and actually check for themselves on a consistent basis. I check my ferret's teeth every week, and it just takes a couple seconds of my time just to make sure that there isn't an abundance of buildup. If there is anything, I will scale them myself because I know how to do so. And then lastly is another huge one that I've talked about channel, and I do get some flack from time to time, and that is believing everything you are told by animal professionals. This is a mistake, and that goes for me. You should not be only going by the things that I say in my videos, because it's so important that you go out and you do your own research, you follow your own experience, read old books that no one talks about, watch videos of animal behavior, really take that time to understand the animal in front of you. And do not believe, for the love of God, believe everything your vet says. I can't tell you how many times people have messaged me so upset and heartbroken because they followed something that their vet recommended and it killed their pet. It led to their pet being extremely sick, led to chronic ailments that they will never recover from, and so on. And this is not me saying that you should not go to your vet, you should not believe your vet, because my vet has saved my animals and my vet has given me good recommendations and advice, prescribed important medications for my animals. However, this does not mean that they are all-knowing beings. In fact, there are many situations that I personally have been involved in with my veterinarians where if I had listened to their advice, if I had not listened to my gut and my own experience and knowledge, where my pet would have ended up dead or my pet would have ended up sick, chronically ill, because we expect a single veterinarian to know everything there is to know about animals, where with people we have multiple specialists in pretty much every area of health for people. And animals, we kind of just expect vets to know everything. And additionally, when you think your pet is sick, try not to obsessively Google, because it will drive yourself crazy and will sometimes make you do things that could harm your animal. I've struggled with this immensely. I can't tell you how many times I thought Patsu was sick and I posted online and people told me that he had heart disease and he was gonna die. Really made things not good for me, made me freak out, spend a lot more money than I had to at the vets, and so on. In my experience, the absolute best thing you can do when it comes to this is preparing yourself so that if your pet does get cancer, if your pet does get heart disease, you already have those resources and studies, recommendations, usually in my experience in the form of books, textbooks, my own study materials from my nutrition classes I reflect back on very often. I'm not saying it's not good to seek out other opinions online, absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. That is all that I have for you guys today. I hope you can take something from this video. If there are any mistakes that you've personally made that you would like to help others from not making, please leave those as well. I'm very open about my mistakes that I have made in the past, present, and the ones that I will make. I think it's so important to be transparent about those things. I am not a perfect all-knowing person. I do know a lot about animals and I have extensive experience in caring for animals, but I make mistakes. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Bye.